Welcome to episode 130 of Fourth and John. I am Gayle Saunders, aka Eagle Sessions, here with my boy Evan Hollywood Hearn. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, Gayle. Doing pretty good considering the COVID world that we live in. For recent weeks, we've been talking about the possibility of, who's going to move forward into this NFL season. Some players are deciding to opt out of their contracts as the NFL has allowed it. And, we've looked at guys around the league, how teams are going to be impacted by the loss of players. But it really hit home today when one of our own guys, Marquise Goodwin, decided that he will be opting out of the 2020 season.
Now, we're thinking about this offseason, and the season is starting to peel the layers back. First it was fans not showing to the game. Would they show up or would they be allowed? Now it's to the point of, which players are opting out of the season.
Right.
And then it's, we started to see players opt out. The news early out was a couple of Patriots players had decided to opt out. And then you start thinking, who on our roster is going to opt out, or what would be the reason? And it was one of our own. And, the good majority of Eagle fans out there have been backing Marquise Goodwin, a guy who's, is he the dynamic threat that we've been waiting for? He's a speed element, vertical threat, possible playmaker for Carson Wentz, but people were kind of excited to see what he could bring to the table with that kind of speed in this offense. But at the end of the day, it's really this is more than this is family first.
Yeah. And if you take the time to really learn about what his story is and where he comes from and how he came to this decision, you can really wrap your head pretty easily around why he came to the decision he did. I mean, the dude, from everything that I've learned about him since he became an Eagle, he really is the epitome of a family man. And, you have to put family first, man. The football is secondary.
Yeah. And this situation, it all started, he had, he met his wife in college. They've been in love for a long time. They've, match made in heaven. Mm-hmm. They ended up miscarriaging.
Couple of track stars, yeah.
Yeah, man, they miscarried, and then they tried to have another child years later, and his son was born prematurely. So as he's there, thinking that I'm not going to play this football game, his wife is telling him to go play in this football game for his son, who's passed away, and his wife. This will be the only time for him to see you play a football game. And Marquise Goodwin does this.
Joe is back out there.
Third down and 8.
Nice pickup.
Wide open for the speedster, Goodwin. And Goodwin is gone. A 49er touchdown.
I mean, 83 yards to the house, but it was more than a touchdown. He was paying homage to his son, who just passed away hours before the game. Imagine having to be in a situation like that and having to perform professionally because it's your job. It's your job. And when we talk family first, Marquise, you don't have to explain anything to us fans because you've showed and put it out there for a football team that hadn't won a football game.
Right.
Hadn't won a football game, and you were out there giving it your all. And the weirdest part of that was his first touchdown of the season.
Yeah.
That was the first game that the 49ers won. So they
were 0-9 going into that game.
So I mean that's crazy.
I mean, to me, that just really speaks to the kind of guy he is. We really want to bring in these high character guys. And I think he is just like all of that. Marquise, he, like you said, he was in the hospital or earlier that day prior to that game. And his wife, that they slept overnight with the baby, and that he didn't make it, and he was able to not remove it from his mind, but let that impactful moment in his life drive him and perform exceptionally well in that game, get the 49ers the victory. It's one of those kind of like storybook kind of endings, you know what I mean? Like it really made you felt like there was some higher powers going on that day. And dude, it's just powerful stuff, and you realize what kind of guy he is. That's the kind of guy I'm proud to call an Eagle,
Yeah, and I mean, even if he's opting out, it's fine with me. Like, again, I'm not a selfish fan over here. I support players doing the best for their families. But we have a video of Marquise telling it in his own words. So you can't mince his words. He's going to tell it straight from his heart. Marquise Goodwin.
Opt out of playing in the 2020 and 2021 season this year, and here's why. 3 years ago, I made a decision that affected my whole life. I chose to leave my wife at the hospital after prematurely birthing our first baby due to incompetent cervix, which resulted in a fatality, to play in a football game. I felt like I had to prove to my coaches and new team that I was dedicated to winning, and I wouldn't let anything keep me from that goal, not even my family. The following year, in the same month, November, same week, our lives took another traumatic turn. 2 weeks after learning that her abdominal cerclage was failing, my wife called me shortly after she had landed and arrived to our team hotel in Tampa, Florida, to inform me she was having painful contractions. And my grandma, who flew up to help take care of Morgan while I would go to work in away games, had to rush her to the ER. Here we are again in the same predicament as a year ago, except I was almost 3,000 miles away. Anxiety overtook me as I again had to make a similar decision. Will I choose to play again like everyone may expect me to do? Or do I go home and tend my ailing wife? Nevertheless, I told our GM at the time that I absolutely had to fly back and take care of my wife to honor my wedding vows I made both to her, myself, and God. We lost our twin boys. We have 3 angel babies to hold and watch as their little heartbeats grew more and more faint by the minute until it stopped. I'm holding these babies, y'all, and I'm seeing my babies' heartbeats grow weaker and weaker, y'all. Like, imagine that. You know what I'm saying? After those losses, I was still expected to perform on the gridiron. Soon, I began to lose excitement for playing the game. Like, it was all I could think about. My wife at home, she didn't have a pregnant belly anymore. Nobody to cling to, no shoulder to cry on, no one to talk to. While I'm at work getting the love and, just everybody patting me on the back and, they just soothing me and getting me right while she at home by herself. Some may not understand, as they may have not had to deal with this issue. It made me vulnerable. I didn't know how to cope with the loss of babies. Like, I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted babies, but, still, we came home with no babies. My game decreased. I started playing less. I was getting injured. I was losing weight. I wasn't the same vibrant soul while in the football facility as I once was. I was mad. I felt that I should be, at home helping my best friend get past the grief. Therefore, I could be the Marquise Goodwin, the guy who was on the field my first season in San Fran, except better. Onward to February 2019, our lives changed for the better as we finally were blessed to bring home our first living child, our rainbow baby. Ray, where you at? Where's she at? Let me see her face. Let them see her face. All right, y'all. This right.
And yeah, man, that's real deal stuff right there.
That's heavy, man.
It's bigger than football. It's bigger than football, and coming down to a moment of a pandemic that no one was prepared for. to leave his wife in a situation like this with their newborn child, it goes without saying, family
Yeah.
first, man.
There's with these NFL players, like none of us could really relate to what it's like to be a professional football player and to be making millions of dollars and off these contracts and everything. But as far as having a family and the simple things after they take their cleats off and they go home and they have a wife and they have a kids and like. I think a lot of us can relate to that. You know what I mean? I know that there's fans out there that are fathers, that are husbands, and they care deeply for their family. And I know that while there's a lot of people, it was kind of weird to see how you say. I agree with you that 90% of the comments that are made about Marquise Goodwin have been in support, but there's been some people that are out there and. They feel like they're being slighted because he's making millions of dollars and he should be out there. Like, you have to be a human about it. Realize that like this is a guy who has a kid just like your kids, and he wants them to be healthy. He wants his wife to be healthy, and that's his number one priority in life, as it should be.
It's like if you're everyday Joe, your boss calls you up and you're having issues with your child, and your boss is like, "No, I don't need you to do this overtime, bro." And you're like, "Nah, I'm staying here with my wife."
Yeah.
Screw that.
You tell him to go pound sand.
I've seen a couple comments there. And I look at them, I'm like, "Yo, what are you thinking, man? Like, what are you thinking?" Like, again, this is uncharted territory for all of us. And it's uncharted territory for all these football players. You're talking about guys who prepared their whole life to play in the NFL. They have this opportunity, and they're dealing with some life and death issues with family members who have underlying conditions. Am I putting my family at risk? That's just what it is. We as regular Joes are doing the same things, whether me being quarantined for 4 months by myself. Like, you have to do these certain things,
right,
to take care of your family, bro. You just have to.
And then you look at like all of the other leagues. Like let's just take a survey of what's going on, the MLB and all that. Like, they have even put together both the NBA, the MLB, NHL. They've put together these plans to keep their players safe, right? But then there's still guys that are going out there. There was a story that came out today about the Miami Marlins, and apparently they were going out in Atlanta. They hit a strip club, and that's potentially where they got COVID from. And put yourself in Marquise Goodwin's shoes. Like, even though there's a safety protocol in place, there could be guys that break that. And if those guys break that, then he has a risk of exposure. And that's ultimately his goal. He's trying to prevent that from happening. So even though there's all these safety protocols in place, he's being realistic about the situation. There's probably going to be guys out there that disregard it, and they go out and they go rogue and they go do their own thing. And there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be more players that test positive for COVID this year. And he's taking all the necessary precautions for all the things that have gone on in his life. He wants to protect the life of his child, which he's totally entitled to do.
And it's unfortunate that he's not going to be going along this journey this season. Look at the depth chart. Obviously, he's a scratch on there. Now, Alshon Jeffrey, they announced that he's going to be on the PUP. We all knew that. Yep. Deshaun Jackson, hopefully he is healthy. Jalen Reagor, you think Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor could be your starters. Greg Ward in slot, perhaps. Looking at the depth chart, you have Quez Watkins, you have Hightower. A lot of people are high on. You can see people in the comments right now talking about both. I think both are vertical threats. Both have high upside in the vertical game. So it's interesting. I think Greg Ward.
I think he kind of cemented his position today. I think he's a lock at this point. I mean,
he should be in the mix. He's been here so long. He knows the offense. He's a guy it was a key piece at the end of the season.
For sure.
But one of the things that, with this whole opt-out thing, the list is growing. Now, do you have a list of the the guys who have opted out. There's some
I do.
pretty talented guys on that list who
Yeah.
decided to opt out.
And it just keeps on growing and growing every hour that passes. I mean, I look at the Baltimore Ravens. They lost DeAnthony Thomas, their offensive lineman Andre Smith. The Dallas Cowboys within our division, they lost Maurice Kennedy and Stephen Goodry. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Green Bay Packers ended up losing Devin Funchess. Kansas City Chiefs lost Laurent Duvernay Tardif. And I think one of the big stories that came out today was the New England Patriots, man. The New England Patriots, a lot of people think that Bill Belichick might be scheming because he ended up, I mean, they lost huge piece in their linebacker, Deontay Hightower. They lost Dan Vitale, Brandon Bolden, Najee Turin, and then also Patrick Chung today. They just ended up getting a whole rash of starters that are stepping away. And that makes you wonder, like, does Bill Belichick have something up his sleeve? That's what a lot of people are speculating, that even though we brought Cam in, he might be eyeing up that first pick in Trevor Lawrence, A little tank for Lawrence action, potentially.
Yeah. I feel like Cam's going to do his best to get W's for that squad. But they are losing pieces, man. They're losing some integral pieces that, those are like solid role players on that team. So I think, again, some of those names that you named, I think there's going to be other players. That there could be another player on the Eagles to opt out. And I've seen guys in the chat like, now, do people have the same energy for everybody on this roster? But granted, Marquise Goodwin has a very, very solid reason, like to not be playing. Like, he's been through so much. But do we give this of course I do. I'm hypothetically asking the question. Do the fans out there give that same kind of leeway for for this guy? I don't know. I don't know.
And that's a hypothetical that I ended up bringing up to you during the show. I mean, we look at Carson Wentz and what's going on in his life recently. He also has had a daughter, and he's got a new wife. I know that, to me, Carson's personality seems like he just wants to get out there and play football. But I look at all these things as a possibility. And I'm like, hypothetically speaking, if Carson Wentz decided to opt out, how would that be received? And on top of that, would kind of make Jalen Hurts the starter. Suppose Jalen Hurts comes in here and lights it up. What the hell goes on in 2021? As if 2020 couldn't get any more wild. If Carson Wentz were to opt out, we might be looking down the barrel of another quarterback controversy.
And they bring back Kelly Green all in the same year. What? That would be amazing. Not amazing that we would not have Carson Wentz, but just that would be, in terms of like the drama that would unfold in the city of Philadelphia and this Eagles Nation. But like 2020 has given us so many ups and downs and runarounds from Kobe to COVID to social injustices and you name it. Like to how many people dying this year due to COVID-19, but I wouldn't be surprised if something else crazy happened. But
what about something crazy like? Did you happen to see the video of Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman waking up Jordan Matthews today? You're on the roster again, boy. Get there.
Get him on the roster. Shout out to who on the timeline tweeted that?
That was Pennsylvania, I believe. At Pennsylvania.
That's funny. That's funny. Mm-hmm. We're meme connoisseurs over here. That's
we appreciate funny. A good meme for sure. Yeah, low key, we are just. Yeah, he's freaking out down there. I don't see anything like that realistically happening. That was obviously a joke, but man, at this point, what can happen? That's where we're at.
It's I mean, we're not even at that part of the season. These are new things that we're talking about, like in the history of this podcast. We're talking about people just opting out of the whole season, like that doesn't even
compute. Like you'd think, and that like what's crazy in this league is like you've got such a wide range of people where they are in their lives. Like you look at the guys that are just bursting onto the scene and they're 23, 24 years old, and I bet you they're not really thinking about the long-term effects of COVID. They're not thinking about they're out there, they're hungry, and they're seeking to make a mark in the league. And then you also in the same exact league have guys like someone like a Tom Brady he's like dude's in his 40s, he's a family man, and all these people, they play together, and they all weigh their own risks on whether or not they want to be out there.
That's the weird dynamic in terms of like fans looking at their teams, and fans who really don't give shit about the players but themselves, and they're like they question their hearts because they're not going to put it on the line because whatever. It's like they don't look at the backgrounds of any of these players. Like even Marquise Goodwin, we just talked about his children, right? The dude has his sister that has cerebral palsy that he also takes care of. So
has been taking care of his whole life.
Not only his kids, he's been taking care of his sister since like the 90s. He calls himself, he's like, I was a parent when I was an older brother, and dude was like changing his sister's diapers. Like this dude has been like, every family has a different setup. Not all families are created equal, and everyone might have. Some people don't have kids. Does the dynamic change when you have kids? Like Jason Kelsey, is he thinking? He just had a daughter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Know.
Like,
and that's what like I think there's a lot of guys too that like guys that were on the bubble before about retirement. Like I'm not saying anyone in particular this year on the Eagles or anything like that, but I'm thinking about all the guys league wide that have been, weighing the options about whether or not they should come back, or they're on the bubble as far as retirement. Like if I'm looking at it like this seems like a pretty good time to step away if I'm one of them. You know what I mean? Like I could see a mass exodus happening in the league, especially the closer and closer we get to the season. Now, if things truly start to continue to downtrend.
Now, Adrian from Facebook, Adrian Caban, he says they all have the right to opt out, but let's not act like the energy wouldn't be different for Wentz. I don't think the city or the fan base would give him that right. Like, I mean, I would, and like as much as it would hurt. Boy, it would sting. It would rip me a new one. I'm just like, yo. Wentz, bro, like Wentz, like, but there's a point in where you have to be real with yourself. You're like, I can't force, a guy to put his health on the line.
Yeah, and it's not just his health, but everybody's. Yeah,
and this is where I come to the point where like we're headed into.
We've been in uncharted waters, man. We've been there.
Like. Chicken wings and strip clubs are at the brink of destruction for leagues, bro. Like, how good are these wings? Dude, how good are these wings, bro?
The lemon pepper, I hear, is just killer, bro. I hear it's killer. I couldn't. I could not believe it, man. And the funniest thing in that whole story with Lou Williams, he for those who don't know, Lou Williams was in the NBA bubble, and he snuck out to a strip club in Orlando. And then when he got called out about it, he was saying that I was just trying to go get some chicken wings. Yeah. All right, bro. All right. That's just like we all go to cheerleaders in Philadelphia for the music selection. It's they got great playlists going on.
So all those players from the Marlins were at a strip club in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So this is what we're dealing with, and this is real talk. It's not even like we're sitting here like saying anything. This is, as funny as it sounds, that is the real issue that we're dealing with. Players who can't follow protocol, or who can't follow hanging out and partying, or like hanging out with a female, or just not social distancing, or this is what we're dealing with. And 53 guys, 53
That's exactly
guys?
the dynamic I've been talking about, is that like you have guys that are taking this quarantine more seriously and you have guys that are not. And the guys that are taking it more seriously are factoring in the people that are not and how they could potentially affect them.
And meanwhile, Corona's out here like,
that's the only thing Corona's focused on right now.
Corona doesn't give a shit. And we're just trying to make light at this moment, but I'm saying that it's crazy out here. Friends of friends, I've had friends just talking about catching it or dealing with it, what they're doing to maintain. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What else is happening out there in Eagle World?
So what else is going on? I think a lot of people had their feathers ruffled when the newest top 100 list came out, and there was some, there's some Eagles high up on that list, and by high I mean closer to 100, not closer to 1. And there was a pretty big name that was missing from the list. And did you see what he had to say about that?
Yeah, Carson was a little upset. Let's roll tape.
Just excited to be here at camp. I'm really not smiling behind the mask. I just want to let you know there's some uncertainty out there, but one thing I am certain of, the NFL top 100 is a bunch of bullshit. I've been reading your bullshit tweets about me not being on the list, but at the end of the day, it's a bunch of malarkey. But fly Eagles fly.
Yeah, a bunch of malarkey. I mean, that's exactly how I think he's obviously fed up when he's throwing out the M word like that, man.
And the funniest things, like, people were like, really thought that was Carson Wentz. That was me. And
what?
I am not a voiceover actor.
This is the first that I've learned about this.
Dude was like, people were answering that like, I hope he doesn't turn into Ben Roethlisberger. Who does he think? I'm like, what? Like, it's a meme, bro. Like, it's a meme. But what's the biggest joke is the NFL top 100. It's there for a reason. It's there to get the people hype. You know what I mean?
There to generate
that's what it
conversation.
Is. Like when I used to work at Roto World, NBC, we would have to put our drafts out there, our mock drafts, and we would have to purposely put somebody in the top 10 that would make people pissed off. And they're like, you can't have this person. Like, you have to put a quarterback up there to get the conversation rolling. And when you're like, your higher ups are telling you you got to change your mock draft to, you can't have the same mock draft from last week. Meanwhile, you have your mock draft set for like weeks, but they want you to change it to make the conversation,
to generate new conversation. Absolutely.
So if you leave Carson off that list, Eagle fans are coming.
Yeah, and I think there's one thing that the nationwide media has really leaned on is kind of turning a knife inside of Eagles fans' guts. They know that we are a fan base that notices things like that. They know that if they push our buttons, we're the ones that are most likely to react. And, we generate conversation for them. And I think Jimmy Kempski, he put out a tweet that I think was pretty accurate. He was saying that if the NFL were to redraft the entire league right now, do you really believe Carson Wentz would go anywhere outside of the top 10? Like, think about that logically. You're starting a franchise. Do you think Carson is escaping the top 10? You need a franchise quarterback, man. There's only like 10 to 12 of them in the entire league.
I mean, it's funny, and overall, the players that made the list, we have five players make the list. At 98, even though he was injured, he still made the list at 98. Brandon Brooks was not ranked in 2019, but He got
Just
ranked
criminal.
98 in 2020. Coming right 4 spots ahead of him, Jason Kelsey, coming in at 94. His 2019 rank was 72. Newly acquired Darius Slay. Last year, he was ranked 86 in 2019. 2020, he is ranked 92. Coming in, let's see, at 85, Mr. Reliable Zach Ertz. Last year, he was ranked 40 in 2019. In 2020, he was ranked 85. And the leader of the pack, Mr. Fletcher Cox, Steal Your Girl, ranked 28. In 2020, he's ranked 73. What does he have to steal more girlfriends or get more QB sacks? How are we taking this?
I mean, I'm taking it the wrong way, and I'm also thinking to myself, there's another key name that's missing off that list who posted a picture today, and he's got I think he's got the same trainer as Brandon Brooks. How about that guy right there? Look at this guy.
I'm telling you, the wrestling career is staring Lane Johnson in the face. For those who listen on the podcast, Lane Johnson, Evan just posted a pic of Lane Johnson looking
dude looks jacked, bro. He looks better than Stone Cold in his prime.
What is it with Lyman with abs, bro? Like,
I don't know, man. I think that they all they must be all dieting this offseason, man. They're not bulking up the same way that they would for a regular season. Are they not anticipating? I've seen that before with offensive linemen. Once they retire, they drop a ton of weight. But I was not expecting to see that out of Brooks and Lane Johnson this year. But they look good, man.
We didn't even mention that Lane Johnson wasn't even mentioned on that list either.
And that's what I'm saying. That was another guy that was snubbed.
Oh, did you say that? Okay.
That's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up is that, like, I think that Lane Johnson should have found his way on that list. I think, personally, he's one of the best right tackles in the entire league.
Lane can't stay off the juice, says shout out to Mike. It's interesting, man. That list gets people fired up. I don't like to take the. That's why I make a meme out of it. I don't take it seriously.
That's all you can do.
Like I'm not fired up. People are like throwing stats back. I'm like, he had more stats as accuracy. Like Kyler Murray's up there.
Josh Allen, yeah.
Like if you say Kyler Murray 5 times fast, it sounds like a hors d'oeuvre.
Kyler Murray. I see what you're saying with that.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, he had a decent rookie season. Honestly, I don't even think he should have won Rookie of the Year. I thought that kind of should have went to AJ Brown of the Tennessee Titans. That dude just lit it up at the end of the season, and was pretty much him and Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, the entire reasons that they went on the run that they did at the end of the season. But Kyler Murray being the first overall pick and somewhat turning that Arizona franchise around, he's still not at the level of Carson, though. And then the other thing that, like, obviously people are just so, like, everybody seems to be so wishy-washy on. So you got Carson unranked on the list. You got Dak at 46 on the list. But then you get the Madden ratings, then they're the exact same rating. Like, nobody. It's so inconsistent, the rankings that are going on here. It's pretty much just to get people riled up, is what it seems like.
Yeah, dude. I mean, looking at the comments here, people are mentioning J-Jaw. I forgot we all this talk about wide receivers. The guy that no one's really mentioning is J-Jaw. And now, is J-Jaw in your book is he the question mark to the whole equation of the wide receiver? I mean, because we have pieces in place, but the question marks are.
What do you mean by question mark? Do you mean question mark as far as he makes the roster, or whether or not he has an impact?
Who he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not ready to, like. A lot of people jumped down J-Jaw's throat last year. I am not at all ready to write him off. I mean, I get it. He had a bad first season. He had a few key drops that, like, if he had made those plays, maybe we'd be viewing him in a different light. But the dude was a rookie. You have to give him another opportunity. He's growing. I mean, don't get me wrong. The thing that I think of J-Jaw every single time is that picture of him at training camp with his mom, where she's shielding him from the sun with the umbrella. And I can't get that image out of my mind because I'm like, man, that's pretty soft. But
wow, are you calling him soft?
that move was soft. I'm not saying he's soft as a person, but that was pretty soft, man. If you got the umbrella on a sunny day, it's kind of soft.
It's not a good look because now it's become a meme.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think if the injuries were a thing, like he mentioned, it was a thing. Hopefully, we're gonna see J-Jaw in a better light next season. I mean, he did that catch against the Giants he showed some flashes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I think that what
Mike's like bro, so soft, like Charmin soft.
I think what J-Jaw brings to the table that is kind of different than the other wide receivers we have are more speed wide receivers, where I think he's more of a box a defender out, go up and get a ball kind of wide receiver. So he brings that different kind of dynamic. If he can pull the ball in, unlike that Detroit game, but if he can go up there and get the ball, be a red zone threat, kind of prototypical of like an Alshon Jeffrey type. If he can assume that kind of role and then interject that into our speed receivers, like he could seriously make an impact.
Now, Cozy was making a point. He was saying too much cross training with the Eagles, and he blames the coaches.
Yeah.
And now if Aaron Moorhead comes in here and changes up the dynamic in the locker room, if he provides a different type of energy to this group, that's yet to be seen. But the good thing about Aaron is that he has that relationship with Jalen Reagor already. He's well familiar. He tried to get Jalen Reagor to he tried to recruit him to what was it, Texas Tech or Texas A&M? I'm not sure exactly, but he's well familiar with Jalen Reagor and his skill set. So interesting stuff.
What
else? I mean, the only other topics going on right now are the Eagles actually did a nice little montage, a memorial to Kobe Bryant. I thought it was a nice touch. I felt like Kobe Bryant as a Eagle fan, that's like a luxury to have a player of that caliber or a dynamic all-star like icon to be a fan of the Eagles. And I think him coming to talk to the Eagles during that Super Bowl run, he kind of like infused his team with energy, a different viewpoint,
the Mamba mentality.
Yeah, so I think that was cool that they came up with the list.
Yeah, dude, there's not a single time that video passes me on Twitter or Instagram or whatever of the moment when Tom Brady's throwing up the Hail Mary and it's him sitting in his living room holding his daughter and, his wife's recording him. It was the final play of the Super Bowl and just him celebrating the Eagles win. And, he was all of us that day. I mean, Kobe Bryant is a guy who was an absolute electrifying basketball player, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time, top 3 NBA player of all time. But at the end of the day, he was an Eagles fan, grew up in Lower Merion. He's a local boy. And just like that day, he was one of us. He was just an Eagles fan that was excited to see his Eagles win. So there's not there's not a time that that video passes me where I don't watch it.
Now, that list I was telling that the Eagles put up in the practice facility, number 1 on the list is the Kobe's 10 rules. Get better every single day. Number 2, prove them wrong. Number 3, work on your weaknesses. Number 4, execute what you practiced. Number 5, learn from greatness. Number 6, learn from wins and losses. Number 7, practice mindfulness. Number 8, be ambitious. Number 9, #believe in your team. Number 10, learn storytelling. So I mean that's
storytelling.
It's a wide range of rules to live by. I think that last one could pertain to his his animation that won like an Oscar.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there were so many layers to Kobe Bryant that we never even got to see, man. We never even got to see, man. But it's good to pay homage to a guy like Kobe. I think he's definitely been in the hearts and minds of a lot of professional athletes out there, especially Philadelphia Eagles athletes.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of guys, a lot of athletes from Philly. I mean, anytime they're interviewed, no matter the sport, their idol is always Kobe Bryant growing up, and you know that across the board that seems to be the case. And you know he lives on in spirit through players playing hard.
Now, to the guys in the chat, if you guys have any other questions that you want to fire off for as we close down in the show, we'd love to answer some questions as we get out of here.
Puga just pointing out, the cheerleaders, they got the great buffet as well. So like it's not just you gotta. Strip clubs aren't just for the fun time. Apparently, the food is killer.
I mean, come on, man! Like, what is in that buffet that's been sitting around?
You don't want to know, man.
Crop dusting on your chicken nuggets, and tater tots. Come on, man. I don't know about that. But yeah, I have a feeling that Marquise Goodwin is not going to be the only news of player opting out. I think like I was sitting there thinking that's got to be it right now. That's got to be it.
I think that I think they have a week from August 4th. It's either August 3rd or August 4th. So like August 10th or 11th should be around the last day that these guys really have the option to opt out. And I think that we definitely have some more guys that they're tossing around the decision right now as we're speaking in their head, and they're wondering if they're going to play. And there's going to be some guys out there that decide they're not.
Now, Paul has a question. He says, do you think that the change with our medical team could be the reason why Brooks and Lane look so ripped?
Well, I'm not so sure, because I don't think that they've been necessarily, they haven't been spending too much with the teams because of COVID, right? It's all been private.
But Brandon Brooks is actually, he practices jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
So I think that dude has been doing his own work on his own. But I think you saw him; he was still doing work after he just tore his Achilles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that dude. He was in the boot and he was in there rolling. He was that dude's got a work ethic like none other.
Let's see.
Cozy wants to know,
what if Dak opts out? Isn't his franchise tag guaranteed? That's a good question, man.
I think if you opt out, you get a different salary for the year.
Is there like a certain minimum for that?
Yeah, I want to say $150,000, but I'm not entirely sure. 150 grand is what I saw.
I heard it was like 250. I don't know. Oh, Cozy.
It could depend on your contract.
Did Matt Collins opt out for the Dolphins? I didn't hear about that. But I'm not trying to bring him back.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins opted out of him, to be honest with you. All right, so Jeffrey Cross saying 150,000 as the low, and then 350,000 for the bigger price players.
Imagine just sitting out for a year, just in your job, doing what you do, and getting 350. Imagine that.
That would be. I couldn't imagine working my ass off and making 350. To be honest with you.
Paul says NFL players consider high risk can earn up to $350,000 in accrued NFL season if they choose to opt out. There also will be a fund established to pay back any benefits eliminated as a result of COVID-19 up to 2023, as well as to pay back any lost guaranteed money to players. Shout out for Paul. Waiting in the comments.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing that this money that is given to these players is almost kind of considered a loan. Whereas that's at least what I've seen online. It's how it's being described. So that essentially, if these players get the 150,000 or 350,000, that's kind of subtracted out of next year's contract. So that makes any sense. It's kind of like you're kind of taking a loan out of your next year's salary.
Okay, so then you're telling me the NFL is coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, the NFL, they don't play, man. They want their money. Was
If you take that money and then retire, they might break your legs. Who knows?
Was it that show on Family Guy when he's like, "Where's my money? I need my money.
I need
Where's
my money.
my money?" And it's funny because at the end of the day, it's the NFL. It's at the end of the day, it's all about that cash. The NFL is still trying to cash in, make that money, and keep the league running. Mark says almost as good as his stimulus check. Little $1,200, get yourself a new PS4 and a PS5, a couple games. Last of Us. I just copped Last of Us.
Did you?
Ghost of
So
Tsushima.
I'll see you in like a month or so. You're just gonna go grind that for a little bit.
That's the game that this is the pre-hype to the season not happening. Like I'm trying to find some games. I went to GameStop and I was like, what game is like really good that's gonna take me a long time right now? Like which one's the game that's gonna take me longer? Like Last of Us. I was like, all right.
Yeah. I'm about to do the deep dive in Dark Souls. I've never played that game before. Everybody hypes it up though, so I might check that one out. But if the season doesn't end up happening, it's so mixed. I feel like every day it feels like, oh my God, it looks like it could actually happen. And then the next day it's like, oh, there's no freaking way, man.
Yeah. But any other any words of wisdom before we head out, Evan?
No, I mean, my one word of wisdom would be, if you're ever in a position where your company is offering you $350,000 to sit around and do nothing, take it. That's just me speaking from logic. But my words of wisdom would just be, try and be understanding of these players that are opting out. Try and learn their stories, and they're humans just like we are, so they want to protect their families.
Well, what I got here? I think it's just important to realize that we're going through. This is the weirdest part for me, is like we're living through history. We're like these moments where you were in history class back in high school and you're looking at these, people standing in line, like poor, or like just going through these sicknesses, or like that would never happen during this time. Here we are in a pandemic, just talking about football, but talking about football like we've never talked about football ever. Like as you grow older, you think that you've seen everything. So for me to be shocked, like I thought I've seen everything, and here I am, working from home.
This should be a life lesson that even after this, you still haven't seen everything. Some crazy shit's still gonna happen down the pipeline, man.
Yeah, hopefully PS5 is in like 8K, maybe. I haven't seen that's what I'm looking forward to in the future. But other than that, guys, we appreciate you guys sticking around, coming to talk Eagles football. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, subscribe on iTunes, or wherever you hear us at. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way.
5 stars.
We appreciate it. But at the end of the day, it's always fly, Eagles fly, and we'll see you guys in the next one.